Assalamu alaikum. Let's cook. Gary Heidnik, Philadelphia's forgotten white demon. This thing right here was glamorized by the white media for the sick and sinister things that he did. Now this guy was so sick that the movie Silence of the Lambs character Buffalo Bill was inspired by him. Now this dude Gary right here preyed on black women in the city of Philadelphia, which is very common for serial killers to prey on black people. You know, Jeffrey Dahmer, the Bayou Strangler, the Slave Master, many more. Now this guy Gary Heidnik, he went after black women with developmental disabilities. He also went after prostitutes and drug addicts. He kidnapped and held captive, raped, tortured, and even killed women in his basement. Now these women, I'm going to say their names now, were Josefina Rivera, she was 25, Sandra Lindsay, she was 24, Lisa Thomas, 19, Deborah Dudley, 23, Jacqueline Askins, 18, and Agnes Adams, 24. He held these women in his basement from November of 1986 to March of 1987, and he also did many other horrible things to other women who he didn't hold in his basement. Now, a little bit more about this dude and where he came from. He was born or hatched in November of 1943. He's from a place called Eastlake, Ohio. He has a younger brother by the name of Terry, who's also a sicko. Now, they say this guy Gary had a rough childhood. He was physically and mentally abused by his father, Michael. They say that this guy, Michael, his father, was so abusive that he would beat the brakes off of Gary and his brother to where he would knock them unconscious at times. We don't know much about Gary Heidnik's mother, but we do know that she suffered from mental illness as well, and she eventually took herself out. You know, the S word, we can't say it on here. That's what her mother did. So this is the stock that Gary Heidnik comes from, okay? So he went about his youth getting bullied and abused in the house by his father because he had a bedwetting problem as well. And Terry Heidnik, who was Gary's brother, says that Gary's problems might have been caused by a childhood accident where he fell off a tree and was left with a misshapen head. And he said that this resulted in frequent taunts from classmates. They would call Gary football head, things like that. So he would get bullied at school. Then he got bullied at home by his father, and this turned Gary into an angry and violent individual as he grew up. But they say that Gary actually had a high IQ of 148. This means absolutely nothing to us. This was, I guess the white community would call him gifted, but a lot of these serial killers have high IQs. Now, Gary's in high school. He drops out of high school. Now, like many guys from these coal mine towns in Ohio or whatever, he goes to the military, age 18. So by the year of 1962, Gary was stationed in Germany. At some point on his tour, he went and got medical attention for blurred vision, dizziness, and nausea. The military diagnosed him as having a schizoid personality disorder, and he was returned to a military hospital in Philadelphia, and he received an honorable discharge from the military. He received full disability pension. Many people believe that Gary faked this in order to get a medical discharge so that he can get a full pension. So this guy, Gary Heidnik, he decides to stay in the Philadelphia area where the hospital is located at that he went to, the military hospital, and he eventually starts to go to college. He goes to the University of Pennsylvania. He's working in the city of Philadelphia as a nurse. Okay, he has a nurse job at the VA hospital in Coatesville, Pennsylvania, but he was actually fired for poor attendance and rude behavior toward patients from the VA hospital. Shortly after that, in 1967, he took a job as a nurse at the Elwyn Institute. Now, this is a hospital for mentally and undeveloped adults and children. And he also preyed on patients at this hospital. Now, this guy, Gary, he's using his white privilege to get good jobs, go to school, but he's still having these mental episodes. He was in and out of the psychiatric hospital, different facilities. He even attempted the S word, tried to take himself up out of here a few times, but he's still getting jobs. This dude's still getting jobs. Imagine a guy like Gary Heidnik having full control over patients in hospitals in the Philadelphia area. So eventually what this dude does, with all the issues he's got, he's a nurse, he went to college, he flips it on everybody, and he decides that he wants to be a holy man. He gets into religion. So in the year of 1971, at the age of 28, Gary formed what's called the United Church of the Ministers of God, and he was known as Brother Bishop by his 5 followers at first. Okay? Now this guy, Brother Bishop, or Gary, he opened up a bank account in the church's name with Merrill Lynch. Initial payment into this account, $1,500. Now this bank account would eventually contain over $500,000, and by the year of 2020, 5.4 million in this bank account. Now, at this time, this guy, Gary Heidnik, he's in charge of this church. He's getting money. They call him Brother Bishop. He's a real sicko. He starts to date a woman by the name of Gail Linsau. They had a child. But unfortunately, the boy was put into foster care after his birth due to the mental capacity of his mother. After that, Gary met a woman by the name of Anjanette Davidson. She's a black woman who's a patient at one of the mental institutions that he worked in. Okay? This woman, Anjanette. Now, Anjanette also had a sister who's in a mental institution as well by the name of Alberta. So old Brother Bishop Gary here, he's in charge of a church, and he's taking advantage of his position in the medical field by having relations with black women who are mentally ill, patients. So Anjanette, the black woman who's in a mental hospital, and Gary Heidnik, they had a daughter. They had a daughter named Maxine, but she was taken into foster care also due to her mother Anjanette's mental disabilities. So far this leader, this pastor, Gary Heidnik, he has 2 children, both in foster care. So remember I said that Gary Heidnik had a child with Anjanette, and she has a sister at the mental institution as well. Her name is Alberta. Well, in the year of 1978, Gary Heidnik went and signed his ex-girlfriend's sister Alberta out of the mental institution on a day pass. He took her, he imprisoned her in the basement of his house. He sexually assaulted her, sodomized her, all this crazy stuff, and they eventually found her shackled behind a disposal unit in his house. They took her back to the mental institution. They realized that he did some horrible things to her. And I know you're probably thinking, well, why did the sister Anjanette, who was his girlfriend, let him do this to his younger sister? People, this dude is preying on mentally ill people. His girlfriend and her sister have mental disabilities. They both live at this mental care facility. So for these horrible crimes to his ex-girlfriend or baby mom's sister, Gary was incarcerated. He got locked up. But he didn't spend any time at the hardcore penitentiaries in Pennsylvania. They sent him to these mental institutions, and he went there for 4 years. He was released in 1983. Now, during the time he was locked up or in these institutions, right, the woman that he had a child with named Anjanette, she disappeared. She just disappeared. And people believe that Gary Heidnik was responsible for her disappearing. So people up to date, this guy Gary, he should be in a Pennsylvania State Penitentiary with a 20 to 30 year sentence. No, he's out. He's back out walking around. A black man who jumps a turnstile at a metro station will get more time in prison than Gary did. So he's out now. And this dude, Gary, he has a lot of money. He has a lot of money, okay? Stacking money from pension checks. He's out and about the city of Philadelphia. So in 1984, he bought a house on North Marshall Street. And from this house, he ran his church. Okay, and he would go about the neighborhood and advertise his church beliefs to the people in the neighborhood. His church started to grow, and yes, people, these are black people that he's recruiting for his church. These are black people. Eventually, he meets a 22-year-old Filipino woman by the name of Betty Disto. Put an ad in the newspaper. She responded. She wanted to come to America. So Betty arrived in Philadelphia the year 1985. They got married in Maryland, but this relationship declined because Betty often found Gary having sex with multiple women, and he would make her take part in it. And he was eventually charged with spousal rape and physical assault of his Filipino wife, Betty, during their short marriage. So Betty, she finally got away from this guy, Gary, with the help of her Filipino community in Philadelphia. Betty actually gave birth to a child with this dude in September of 1986. She named the boy Jesse John Disto. So Gary, right? This guy, Gary Heidnik, he's already R-worded women, sodomized, kidnapped mentally ill black women, did all kinds of stuff, got in trouble for doing this to his wife, spousal rape, physical assault, no jail time, no hardcore prison time. White American man, no accountability for what he does. His community does not expose him or hunt him down or hold him accountable. So now he's out doing what he does. He's the bishop of his church, which is called the United Church of the Ministries of God. He's got 50 members. They will meet at his church every Sunday to talk about the Bible. And again, people, his church was primarily all black. Should not surprise any black people. Jim Jones, a white man, most of his followers were actually black, and 80% of them were black people who he convinced to kill themselves. So y'all know how it goes. Gary will go about the neighborhood and act like he's a good spiritual white Christian man. Of course, he knew the powers that white privilege had over these black people. He could just navigate around black people very easily. You know what I'm saying? As much of a piece of white trash as Gary is, if race was a credit score, he'd have an 850 anytime he went around black people. That's just how it goes. Okay, people, I have to make a part 2 to this video. Part 2. Catch it on the next one. Easy.